beyeshiva.net.
Okay, so we are holding up to class number 7 in Basi Legani, the Mamer Basi Legani Tovshin Chaf Hey, Yud Shvat Tovshin Chaf Hey, 5725 or 1965. The Rebbe said at the Fabrengen of Yud Shvat, the yahrzeit, the Yom Istalkus of his father-in-law, the Rebbe Rayat, the 6th Lubavitcher Rebbe. Be'ezer Hashem, tomorrow we will also have a shiur, as I mentioned. It's Friday morning, Tes Shvat, 7:45, Bli Neder. Motzei Shabbos, there'll be a big Fabrengen here in honor of Yud Shvat on 24 Shei upstairs, beginning 8:30 with a beautiful Malava Malka and hot food and music by Fitche Ben Shimon, and there'll also be a live stream that begins at 9 on the yeshiva.net. Okay. So we are up to Seif Daled, chapter 4 in the Mamer. In this kuntras, it's page Tesavav, right? Hamshich Mamer. The series is dedicated graciously in loving memory and in tribute Leil Nishmas Harav Reb Shneir Chaim HaKoyen Gutnik ben Harav Reb Mordechai Ze'ev HaKoyen Gutnik. Tehei Nishmasam Tzrura B'Tzrer HaChaim, both great rabbinic leaders and sages. Also dedicated by Reb Ezra David Philip in honor of the Lubavitcher Rebbe and his shluchim for creating a revolution in the world to bring Mashiach Tzidkenu now. Amen. Thank you very much for both dedications and for your extraordinary partnership in the past, in the present, and Be'ezer Hashem in the future. So the theme of yesterday's shiur, which I'm not going to repeat, of course not. I'm going to make a tzimtzum. We're going to do a tzimtzum. Usually I try to do a tzimtzum and it ends up being longer than the original. Huh? You only come for the review for the next day. Yeah. So it's funny, you know, I tried to do a summation, like I think in a sentence we'll compress what was said in 2 hours, we'll compress in a sentence. It turns out that the sentence becomes longer than the 2 hours. Maybe that's how the tzimtzum actually works. We'll soon see. That it's actually, it becomes something much deeper. Okay, that was an interesting slip. But the nekuda, the tzimtzum version of it was to compress it in one sentence. That of course, in infinity, there's also the capacity for being limited, for being finite. As the הקודש puts it, if you only define it as bli gvul and not as gvul, if you only define it as having the capacity for endlessness, for limitlessness, and not for limitation, this is not the shleimus, this is not the perfection of the Ein Sof. It's Ein Sof as another title, it's just another name. Infinity could be another name, you know, they have infinity pools. Why were they named infinity? I asked my son, why were they named infinity? Yeah. So he said, because it looks like it doesn't end. Usually a pool has containers, you know, it's inside and that's it. But here the water is going and going, you know, it looks like Lahavdil. I don't know if that's why they named it infinity. Is that why they named it infinity? You don't see the end, right? You don't see the end, okay. So they named it infinity, interesting. Huh? A good smorgasbord is also Ein Sof, yeah? That means to be at a good wedding, it's Ein Sof. Yeah. And stupidity, no? Yeah. Einstein said two things are infinite: the universe and stupidity. And he's not sure if the latter is not more infinite. Yeah, Albert Einstein. Yeah. So lahavdil, all these things, we all understand that infinity here is just a title, it's a name. But even if you're talking about something that's infinite, if it's only infinite, that itself is a limit. So the Avodas HaKodesh tells us that the Ein Sof is also Bal Gvul. It can also have the ability for Gvul. which was a very novel idea in Kabbalistic thinking, in philosophical thinking, and spiritual thinking. So when you speak about Ein Sof, the Rebbe says, don't get into the trap of Ein Sof. Only Ein Sof. Ein Sof means I can also limit myself. There's a word I once saw somebody brought from the Arizal, very interesting, that one of the Tanoim, and according to some versions, he was one of the Asara Ruge Malchus killed by the Romans. His name was Reb Chutzpis HaMeturgeman. Chutzpis HaMeturgeman. Now, it's an interesting name. Who names their son Chutzpah? I mean, there's different names you could name your child. Chutzpah, like right when he was born. Chutzpis is from the word chutzpah. So the Arizal says something fantastic. He says to be a real Meturgeman, he was called HaMeturgeman. He was a translator. So it doesn't just mean translating one language to another language. A Meturgeman in the time of the Mishnayos and Gemara, the time of the Tanoim meant, by Kriyas HaTorah, there was a Meturgeman who would actually explain the material to the audience. So you had the one who read the original text, the Meturgem. The Arizal says a real Meturgeman takes chutzpah. To be a real translator takes chutzpah. Because there will be people who are accusing you of distorting the message. It takes guts and audacity and initiative to be able to take something pristine and bring it into new kalim. Because there is a danger. Is it only new kalim? Or are you changing the light? Are you changing the message, right? Are you just changing the form or are you changing the substance? Reform Judaism decided we also need to make new kalim. But what happened? Nothing was left. Reforming something, meturgeman, translating it into a new language is a risky. It takes chutzpah. And there'll always be people who are saying, no, don't do that. Let's just remain in the old language. The problem is nobody's relating to it. So that takes chutzpah because you are still completely anchored in the old, but presenting it in a completely new form, in a fresh form. Why am I saying the meturgeman? Yeah. So what's the idea of meturgeman? That sometimes something is beyond the people. You need to really contain it, right? When you say it must remain infinite and it can't be finite, means I can't relate it to you. That's a tremendous limit. Like we said yesterday, the greatest geniuses could speak in a way that 5-year-olds understand. The regular geniuses make sure that nobody understands them because they need to be a genius. Right? The real geniuses, they don't need to prove their genius, number one. And number two, they know how to bring it down. When you master the core of something, you're not limited by the form of it. Sometimes you have students, all they can do is repeat what they heard from their teacher. But the moment you take them out of that comfort zone, they have to be creative. They don't know, they lose it. To protect that insecurity, they say, we're the ones who are loyal. I don't want to get off topic here, but you understand what I'm saying? Yeah, we're the ones who are loyal. Everyone else is distortion. Now, sometimes it's true. Not every meturgeman was a chutzpah meturgeman. Sometimes it's true. There is no danger in just repeating the exact words. And there's a tremendous beauty to it. But sometimes it's because somebody mastered the material so well that they can direct it in a completely different way. They could present it in a completely new form that, someone who doesn't understand may not even know the original, that it's where it's coming from. That's how powerful it is. And yet they maintain and retain the entire truth of it to the core. In a way, it's deeper even, because they're showing its application to so many different aspects. This is a very, very, very important idea. Yeah. The only one who can transform something and it stays the same is if you're much deeper connected to the core. Because then you don't need the form. Now, how do you know? How do you know if somebody is just changing the form or actually changing the substance? This is a subtle thing. Only somebody who's closer to it in its core has the capacity and the right to do that. It says in the end of Parshas Bamidbar, "V'layiru kevalas hakodesh v'mesu," when they had to take out the furniture from the Holy of Holies, the Aron, and then from the Heichal, So nobody was allowed there. Even the Bnei Kahas, who came from Levi, who carried the Aron, they weren't allowed. It was only Aaron and his children who can expose everything and take it and put it in the bags, and then they gave it to the Bnei Kahas. So not everybody could see Kavalas HaKodesh. In other words, when you're taking it all apart, unless you're completely connected to the core, it can also have a negative consequence. So the Avodas HaKodesh is saying, I'm just giving an example here to this concept, that the Ein Sof is also Gvul, could also be Gvul. So the Rebbe said, so what do you need a whole tzimtzum for? If the Ein Sof includes Gvul, that means there's a Oir that can give room for the world. The answer is, this was the main Nekuda, that when the Oir HaGvul is pre-tzimtzum, so what's felt there is the Oir HaBli Gvul. And when infinity is felt, the finiteness is just another manifestation of infinity. So it's not the finiteness that we are familiar with in the world, where there's a sense of separation and somethingness and independence and even abandonment. For this, that was the tzimtzum. Because the way the Oir HaGvul is in pre-tzimtzum, of course there's the capacity for Gvul. But over there it's felt that it's part of Ein Sof. And therefore, you have to have the siluk, the complete suspension of the infinity, to the point that only the Gvul remains, Oir HaGvul, and from there can be the Metzias of Olam, as the way we understand the Metzias of Olam. That was the main point. So now goes the next step. So Mamshich ba Mamer, Siv Daled, he continues in the Mamer, Basi Legani, Tzimtzum urak legabeinu. When we speak about the tzimtzum that Arizal spoke about, it's basically from our experience. Rak legabeinu doesn't mean it's not true. It means that this is the experience of the world. Aval legabi yizbarach harei hatzimtzum einoi master klal. Umeir la'acher hatzimtzum k'may kaidem hatzimtzum. These are the words that capture the truth of tzimtzum shaloi kipshutai. That when you're speaking from Hashem's experience, so to speak, which means the underlying reality, that tzimtzum does not create any concealment. And the words are, he's Meir, post-tzimtzum, exactly like before tzimtzum. That quote that you're saying is a quote that we can't understand it. So that's a quote from Nefesh HaChaim. Reb Chaim Volozhin, literally that's a quote from Nefesh HaChaim, which is a sefer written by Reb Chaim Volozhin, who was the great student of the Vilna Gaon. So that's a quote from him. I mean, he says it in Hebrew. So he says it's true, Taka, that legabe, the tzimtzum is not master, tzimtzum is not kipshutay. And by the way, as the Rebbe once wrote to somebody in a letter, it's a chidush maftia, because from the Vilna Gaon's writings, and from a very famous letter that was written, it seems like he held tzimtzum kipshutay. So Reb Chaim Volozhin here, who was the greatest student of the Vilna Gaon, argued with his teacher, with his Rebbe, in the inyan of tzimtzum. He went to the side of Chassidus. But this is what Reb Chaim Volozhin says. Right? That was the shit of the Nefesh HaChaim. The shit of the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe and Chassidus Bechlal was that the idea of tzimtzum shaloi kipshuta is not just an abstract idea that has no access to us. It's essential to the understanding of life. Now, of course, we have to know our limitations, there's no question. We shouldn't fool ourselves. But the point is that it's discussed by the great Kabbalists and the great spiritual masters because of its powerful ramifications on what life means.
Someone would have said 100 years ago, but we can't understand what an atom is. But we can't understand what an atom is.
Right. It's true. It's true. So obviously, we're using our finite brains, and we have to know that, but we're also using our infinite souls. We're using our finite brains and our infinite souls together. It's relatable. Again, of course, every person according to their capacity and their avodah and their sherish neshama, the source of the neshama. The Rebbe Rashab once said in Yiddish, he said, the neshama zet, the cup, seichel, stellt sich vor, und the heart leapt iber. The soul sees, the brain imagines, and the heart experiences. The soul sees, the brain stellt sich vor, it creates simulations, and the heart experiences. The Neshama zet, the Kop Seichel stellt sich vor, und the Herz lebt über. So he says, so when you say tzimtzum rak legabeinu, that's tzimtzum shalai kipshut. Again, tzimtzum shalai doesn't mean it's a joke. If it was a joke, the Arizal wouldn't say it. Chas v'shalom. Doesn't mean. It means there's the tzimtzum at face value. In other words, the sensation, the feeling, the experience it creates in our reality and all of reality. And then there's the pnimius of the tzimtzum. What does it mean? The way it's Lagabi Hashem, what does it mean Lagabi Hashem? Doesn't mean, there's an argument here. God has his opinion, we have our opinion. It means that when you get to the depth of the tzimtzum, you see, as we're going to get to, that the whole inyan of tzimtzum is achdos. The inyan of tzimtzum is not blocking, but it's connecting. That seems strange, but that's the vart here. Mamer la'achar tzimtzum k'ma'kaydem tzimtzum. So he's mayor post tzimtzum exactly like before tzimtzum. So it seems like you're contradicting yourself. If the light is the same after the tzimtzum like before the tzimtzum, so you're basically saying there was no tzimtzum. So that's what he's saying. Of course there was a tzimtzum legabeinu. Legabeinu, yeah. The oid after the tzimtzum is not like the oid before the tzimtzum. But legabi Hashem, it's the same. How does that help us? Like he had just asked, fine. So God, okay, God is God. But that's itself taught to us. This is being taught to us. It's told to us. Why is it told to us? Not just to make ourselves a little crazy. Because that's the negeya to the tzimtzum. Reb Chaim V'Alon, what he was saying, Reb Chaim V'Alon Nefesh HaChaim says, stay away from that. Ein lano esek ben estada. Stay away from that. Like, just be a good Jew and do your thing. And it's true that there's no tzimtzum on another level. But the whole Chassidus was the opposite of that. That reality, if it's ultimate reality, it's your ultimate reality. And this is Bechlal, this has a lot of ramifications and a lot of things. That Einoid Mulvada is not an inyan of, somewhere in some planet, someplace. You're part of it. And not only you're part of it, it could be embodied in you and through you. Mamer, this is what we say in the morning. Chazal say in the morning. We say this in the morning after Krish Maktana in the Birchas HaShachar in Karbonis. Atu kodim shenivneilam v'atu achal shenivneilam. You are there before creation, and you're there after the creation of the world. So on a surface level, what does it mean? That you were always around. You were always around. God is eternal, like we say in Baruch Shamar, Chai la'ad v'kayim lanetzach. You've always been there. Pre-creation and post-creation. You're not getting old, you're not getting frail, you're not disappearing. There's no death in you. But Chassidus teaches much deeper. The word is Ata hu kaidem shenivra elam. It could have said Ata kaidem, Ata lachar. Ata achel nivra, Ata mishenivra. Ata hu means it's the same who. You are the who. You are he who was before created the world, and you are he after the creation of the world. It's the same. Bahashva gemura. Hashva gemura means in complete equality. The same state of consciousness, if we can use that word, or reality. Pre-creation or pre-tzimtzum is atohu lachar. What do you mean there was a big tzimtzum? Don't say that. You can't compare. This is the chiddush that we're saying in davening. Why are we saying it in davening? Not to tell us how great God is only, but to tell you how great you are. And to really explain about the oneness between us and Hashem. This is what the Mamer says. To explain this more, what is the L'chayre moving? This needs understanding. How could you say there's no change? The tzimtzum, which resulted in the creation of the world, which comes after the tzimtzum, to the point of lamata adein tachlis, creation all the way to the lowest layers and dimensions of reality to no end, is a tremendous shinui. It's not just a small change. It's drastic. It's a titanic change. If this is not a change, what is a change? That there was a tzimtzum and everything that comes after that. So what does that mean? Are you going to say it's all fiction? And even fiction, there are those who want to say that the whole world is an illusion. It's just a chalam shech. It's all an illusion. First of all, even that is a reality. A dream is also a reality. Okay, it may not be a concrete physical reality, but it's also a reality. Don't say it's no reality. Especially Yiddishkeit doesn't say that everything is an illusion. Bereshis bara l'kimus hashemayim v'esaretz is a real pasuk. Teres emes. We don't say, oh, heaven and earth, you're having a bad day. They say an old joke that there was a young boy walking in the street, and he meets an old Indian doctor who used to live near his family. So he knew the family. So he says, oh, hi, wow. I remember when you were born, how is your dad doing? Fine. How is your uncle doing? He says, my uncle is very, very sick. He says, you tell your uncle that he's not sick. He thinks he's sick. It's in his mind. He says, I'll tell him. A few weeks later, he meets him again. He says, how is your uncle doing? He says, my uncle thinks he died. We don't say, tefillin, it's not a real metzias. Torah, it's not a real metzias. Mezuzah, it's not a real. Shabbat, it's all. But even on any level that you want to describe it, it's a big shinui. So we have to understand this in a very pneumistic way. It's a very deep Indian here. And now comes a long beer. And this is going to be this paragraph, the next paragraph, the third, and the paragraph after that, till Sif Hey, Sif Dalad, is Tzimtzum Shaloi Kipshut. It's very, very deep beer explanation. But this is trying to explain the whole Indian of what is Atu Kaidim Shnevraylam, Atum Shnevraylam. So first he explains it, this paragraph in very, very abstract terms. And then he starts giving mashalim for it. A few mashalim for it, very interesting mashalim. And here he goes to the Mittler Rebbe. Remember I told you that he goes through all the Rebbes. So we spoke about the Baal Shem Tov, the Magid, the Alter Rebbe, who said that Tzimtzum wasn't an Atzmos, only an Eir. So now the Mittler Rebbe is explaining what it means that Tzimtzum in Eir, that it's Shaloi Kipshuta. One of the Svarim of the Mittler Rebbe, it's a very fundamental work in Chassidus Chabad, it's called Shar HaYichud. The Alter Rebbe has Shar HaYichud ve'emunah in Tanya, second section. Mittler Rebbe has a sefer called Shar HaYichud, the gate of unity. And there he goes through the whole Seder Hishtalshalus, the whole evolution of creation, all the levels. Pedic tests. And he says there, how are you supposed to understand what the Pasuk says in Malachi? Ani Hashem lo shanisi, I God have not changed. Which again here, at face value, it means nobody got rid of me. It's not like the Roman Empire or the Egyptian Empire or the Babylonian Empire or Hitler or Stalin got rid of me. They tried to get rid of me, but Ani Hashem lo shanisi, v'atem b'nei Yaakov lo chilisem, and nobody's getting rid of you. It's a beautiful nevuah. So it's basically a very clear statement about history. There's things that are in history, there are things that are what's called meta-historical. Ani Hashem lo shanisi. I don't go into the equations of history. Nobody is defeating me. Va'atem b'nei Yaakov lo chilisem, and you too have not perished. Al pi chassidus, al pi Kabbalah. The Alter Rebbe teaches Ani Hashem lo shanisi in a much deeper way. That the Ani of Hashem lo shanisi have not gone through a change as a result of creation. That the Tzimtzum is not master, it doesn't conceal. That the Atu Kaidim Shenivra Olam, the oneness, the state of reality that existed pre-creation still exists post-creation. Even though we speak about a Tzimtzum. He says, how can you say that? Ani Hashem lo shanisi the Koi al Malchus de Ein Sof. This, the Mittler Rebbe is referring to what's called Malchus de Ein Sof, the royalty, the kingdom, the leadership, the godliness of infinity. Hade Malchuscha Malchus Kol Olam. The Pasuk says in Ashrei and Tehillim, Malchuscha, your Malchus is Malchus Kol Olamim, is the Malchus that penetrates all the worlds. Hainu shemalchuscha kefi she'lifnei atzimtzum hi Malchus Kol Olam ad lo olam achi tachta. So your Malchus, Malchuscha, your Malchus, your leadership, your Malchus, your kingship, and it's yours. In other words, the way it's yours, the way it's pre-tzimtzum, this is the Malchus of all the worlds, even in the lowest world. It's all yours. The way he puts it. So if there's a change even in Malchus of Asiya, meaning in the energy of the divine that creates and sustains the world of Asiya, that's called Malchus Asiya. In physicality, when we say a melech doesn't create the country. He runs the country. But a real melech is the heartbeat of the country. In Yiddish, there's a word, Zeitgeist. He's the Zeitgeist. The Rambam has an expression in Hilchos Malachim that the melech is leiv. He's leiv kahal Yisrael. Hamelech hu liboy He's the heart of the people. We're talking about a real king. You have kings who are despots. You have kings who are tyrants who care about the people, less than you care about ants. But a real melech, right, cares about the people more than everybody else. It's like a brain. It's like a heart. So the Rambam doesn't say the melech is the brain of the people. He says the melech is the heart of the people. So when you say Malchus of Asiyah, it's not just talking about he runs the country, he's a good CEO. Here Malchus means you create it, you sustain it. It's like what the brain does for the body. It runs every nekuda of it. Yeah, and even the brain doesn't create the body, but it gives the instructions. Here Malchus is mamish everything. So you're saying Malchus Cha, that's the Malchus of Kol Olamim. It's the same Malchus. So if there's even a shinui in Malchus of Asiyah, meaning in any dimension of Asiyah, it's already a shinui in Malchus Cha, it's you. You're not some detached, watchmaker who's gone. You made your watch and you ran away. And even then it would be a shinui because you made it. That's the Mittel Rebbe Shaila. And still you say, Ani Hashem lo shanisi. So the Mittel Rebbe says, and look at this as a quote from the Mittel Rebbe, Shahatirutz l'chol zehu inyan hatzimtzum. Kiyadua. The Mittel Rebbe says, the answer to this whole enigma is tzimtzum. And this is amazing, because the Mittel Rebbe is saying, when the Arizal postulated tzimtzum, he was trying to explain Einoid Milvadai. The answer to all this is tzimtzum. It's counterintuitive. Most people think, what's tzimtzum? Tzimtzum is distance. Tzimtzum is, I'm out of this. Like, you want a world, fine, but this has nothing to do with me. It's like, not on my watch. What's tzimtzum? Tzimtzum means I withdraw. I create an empty space, and that's where the world happens. That's where all the chaos happens, Go enjoy your headache. Call me if there's a problem. In other words, most people, I'm saying it a little in humor, but most people, when you hear the word tzimtzum, what's the impression? Distance. Fakert. I'm not manifested. I'm not revealed. I'm concealed. Any way you spin the tzimtzum. Here the Mittel Rebbe is saying fakert. Without the tzimtzum, you can't say Ani Hashem lo shanisi. Because there's a world, and the world changes reality. It changes the oneness. Hatirutz l'chol zeh inyan hatzimtzum kiyadu. The teretz for this whole enigma of Ani Hashem lo shanisi, without denying the authenticity of existence, is only through tzimtzum. So this is a tremendous gilui of the Mittel Rebbe that he was understood from his father, the Alter Rebbe. This is why we call it soy, that's the secret of tzimtzum. At the surface, tzimtzum is distance. It's withdrawal. The word tzimtzum means withdrawal, or compression, or condensing, or filtering, or concealing, or restricting. Litzamtzem, as we said yesterday, tzimtzum. I'm only giving you a little tiny trickle. A little trickle. And even that not, because as we said, tzimtzum is he removes the entire infinite light and then just gives you a little line afterwards, a kaf. Here the Mittel Rebbe is saying, tzimtzum came to explain, and when I say explain, I don't mean intellectually a mathematical equation. Explain means experience. Whenever in Chassidus you use the word explain, it means to experience, not just to explain. You explain it, but Chachma Bina Das is v'yadaita yoim v'ashevoisa el levavecha. So when I say explain, I don't just mean as some beer, some abstract explanation, so you have another philosophical equation, which may be nice, but that's not the nekuda. I'm using the word explain, but it's more than explain. Because we have a paradox here. Now, we're not afraid of paradoxes, but the question is, could you experience paradox? You could say everything is a paradox, have no problem. Shut your mind and say paradox. Lahavdil, I saw once an article that Stephen Hawking said, he was one of the great physicists. He said, if you talk to me about quantum mechanics, I open my drawer and I pull out my gun. In other words, I want to kill myself. Like there's no room for me anymore because, all my brilliance, ceases to exist. Chasal Siddur Pesach, I pull out for my gun. You want to kill me, kill me. Because, you can't control it. Like a scientist, they like to control. Today, that's the problem. Today in science, if you want to control, you understand nothing. You need to completely open up with complete bittul. That's why scientists who have bittul reach much deeper spaces of reality. It was always true. All wisdom is bittul. Chachma is kayach ma. But especially when you're touching deep places of infinity. So paradox is paradox, but the experience of paradox. So what's the paradox? You're telling me, Atu Kaidim Shenivra Olam, Atu Lacha Shenivra Olam. Great. You're telling me he created a world. You're telling me there was a tzimtzum. So you can tell me there's a change, yeah? There's God there's the pre-world. Tzimtzum is not master, but there is a tzimtzum. It's not fiction. And again, even if it was fiction, that fiction itself is some form of fiction. Pre-tzimtzum, there was no fiction of tzimtzum, right? A fictional story is also a story. Huh? Sometimes more powerful than a non-fictional story. What are they, right? The problem of nationalism is not a philosophical problem alone. That's one that could. It's a much deeper issue. It's the question of who the human being is. Ani Hashem lo shanisi, yeah, means if there was no change, you're part of that. You're part of the no change. That's that. Yeah, you're part of the no change. Ani Hashem lo shanisi doesn't means you're part of that. You're part of that equation. What he's saying is that Ani Hashem lo shanisi really means that every experience of life, you could say all experiences are fake, are false, they're non-existent, it's all fictional. Even that, first of all, that's not the Jewish approach. That's not the Jewish approach. We call Torah's emes. The beginning of Torah is there was a creation. Right, that says it all. It's interesting, Stam, I'm going to get to what you said in a second. The Rebbe Marash writes in a Mamer, he wants to prove that the world is not fiction. It's not in your imagination. So what's his proof? You need a proof, yeah? There's a Mishnah in Sanhedrin that there's two types of kishuf. There's loikid kishuyim and there's oiches aseinayim. There's a magician, like mechashev, that actually the cucumbers get harvested through magic. And then there's oiches aseinayim, meaning he deceives the eyes. You know, like some magicians, it's just a... So the Mishnah says, for the first one, yeah, there's a death penalty. It's real kishuf. The second one is potter. Says the Rebbe Marash, if the whole world is a fiction, so even the first one is oiches aseinayim. You think it's the chanayim that the cucumbers are real. So from a Mishnah in Sanhedrin, he proved that the world exists. Just from his raya, you can see that was his raya. Without the Mishnah, how do I know? He says, the ganze Sache is oiches aseinayim. It's one big oiches aseinayim. It's one big dimya. And you're saying here's a chiyuv, here there's a chiyuv missing. There's no chiyuv missing. Ad kedei kach. This guy's fiction is for 7 billion people, and this guy's fiction is for 500 people. This is Alba fiction. This is a matrix within a matrix. This is just a matrix. But that's not what we're saying. This is the chiddush of the tzimtzum is not master, means that every experience of life and every journey of life is part of the Ani Hashem lo shanisi. In other words, in its deepest place, it's a pure experience of dveikus with Hashem, of complete oneness with Hashem. So all the glory, all the infinite presence of oneness, all the love is right there. So you'll say, sorry, come to my life, right? Come to my neck of the woods. That's exactly what tzimtzum means. Tzimtzum means that in experience, it takes so much work to be able to work through that experience until you come to the space where tzimtzum is not master. So when you say Ani Hashem lo shanisi, it's the same place of Kaidim Shenivra Olam. It means, and it's hard to say this because we live in a tzimtzum reality, that every moment is as perfect as can be. It can be more perfect. Every experience is as perfect as it can be. Every relationship that I am presently connected to is as perfect as it can be. Now you say, that sounds cruel. It sounds even so non-compassionate. It sounds so non-empathetic. It's like, really? That's why Chassidus doesn't say there was no tzimtzum. Saying there was no tzimtzum is very non-empathetic. Oh, yeah, it's also God's oneness. Thank you. He thinks he died. Yishakayach. First we talk about a tzimtzum, and we say tzimtzum is not kipshute. Tzimtzum is not kipshute means there's a process here. But Ani Hashem Lo Shanisi is a description not just of God, it's a description of all of reality, and that includes you, includes me, it includes us. It means in your deepest space, you are the rhythm of infinity. You are the rhythm of oneness. So you say, well, I'm the rhythm of infinity. There's no I there. Yeah, that's true. There's no ego there. You're right. There's complete bittul. But that complete bittul is complete bliss. You're right. Pre-tzimtzum, there's no me, there's no you. That's the whole vart. And that is you. You think you're an ego. You're not an ego. You're infinity. So you say, what, I'm infinity? Yeah, the moment I say I am infinity, I know that's a contradiction. But that's the whole word of Tzimtzum is not master. What of Tzimtzum is not mastered is that every moment in life. What's Geula? Geula is the embodiment. That's why I said yesterday, Geula is not different than Galus. Geula is the Aleph in the Geula. It's the Akiva Nichamtonu that we spoke in class 5, the end of Maseches Makkos. It's not a different reality. Now we live in a crazy, insane world. It's interesting, Taka, today, Mamer, the last year and a half, like from one day to another day, the news changes like more than in 4,000 years. It took empires to fall, the Egyptian Empire, the Babylonian Empire, the Roman Empire. It takes long times. Today, a few hours ago, Syria's gone. Okay, next. Trump is the president. Was jetzt? America's occupying Gaza. Okay, what's tomorrow? I don't know. Just stop. Huh? Yeah, the United States of Gaza, Riviera of the Middle East. To say Ani Hashem Lo Shanisi is that there's some big, strong God somewhere. I don't know, like 100 billion light years away, and He didn't change. Thank you. That's not Ani Hashem Lo Shanisi. That God doesn't change. Yeah, he's intact. His immune system hasn't been affected by CNN and the New York Times. Okay, it's also a nice thing. Huh? The B'Yosher Soloveitchik, I once heard a shir of his, a tape. So he was describing, he lived in a place called Chaslavich. Chaslavich is a city in Belarus. It's near Lithuania. His father was the Rav, Reb Moshe Soloveitchik, Reb Chaim Brisker's son. He was talking before Rosh Hashanah. He said his teacher was a Chabad Chassid, a Melamed. His name was Reb Baruch. So he says that it was Erev Rosh Hashanah, and he was telling his students in Yeshiva University, Yeshiva Ben Yitzchak Elchanan, he says, I learned Maseches Rosh Hashanah. I learned Shulchan Aruch Hilchos Rosh Hashanah, Rambam Hilchos Shofar. I learned the Tur. I learned Shalos Tshuvos. I learned the Halachas. I learned Rishonim, Acharonim. But the only one who really explained to me what Rosh Hashanah is was my teacher when I was a little kid in Chaslavich. He told me what Rosh Hashanah is. And he said that his teacher asked the kids, do they know what happens Rosh Hashanah at night? Because they said it's Yom Hadin, it's a day of judgment. So he says, my teacher said that the Tzemach Tzedek used to call the night of Rosh Hashanah Koronatia Nacht, coronation night, the night of coronation. And he turned to the little kids and he said, do you know who we're coronating? So he said, so one of the smart Alex, I think he meant himself, but I'm not sure. He said, Nicholas. This is before the revolution, so it was still by the Tsar. So the early 1900s. Soloveitchik was born around 1901, 1902, 1900. The Rebbe's age. So it's the early 1900s. This is a few years before the Bolshevik revolt, before the Tsars were overthrown by the Bolsheviks. The Tsar was overthrown. So he said, or somebody said, Nicholas II, Romanov was the Tsar then, the king. So he said his Melamed was a poor Yid, a Kaptzin, a Melamed in Chaslavich. He says, er ist nicht kein König, he's not a king. He's not a king. Was ist er? Ich bin a König, this is a König. And then he said, we're coronating the real king. And he says, and you know who's coronating him? And he said, you and your father the baker, and your father the shoemaker, and your father the water carrier, and your father the wood chopper, and your father the carpenter, you're coronating Hashem. He says, then I got Rosh Hashanah. But when he said, Nicholas is a king, ich bin a König. And he says, besides, he was already coronated a number of years ago. Why do we have to coronate him again? The Rebbe once said in a Fabrengen, he was talking about Israel's concessions to the enemies. So he says, a kleine, a arme schwache Yid in a klein Städtel in Polen hat gehabt mehr jüdische Stolz wie die Manhigen von Eretz Yisrael mit der größeren Armee. A poor, impoverished Jew who had nothing in a little shtetl in Poland had more Jewish pride and dignity and identity than powerful leaders in Israel have a huge army at their disposal. He says this Jew had nothing, but he had pride. Now, why am I saying all this? So it's not pshat. You have a king somewhere in a big corner, and he doesn't get affected by everything that happens in the world. Lo shanisi, I'm like, nobody's touching me. I'm untouchable. The way we touch Lo shanisi is untouchable, indestructible, like God is untouchable. And in philosophy, that's the feeling you get. Make God untouchable. He created the world. Yeah. So we have to figure out an equation of how to still keep the distance. Don't think that by creating the world, he became touchable. And this is a huge discussion in Jewish philosophy and in all philosophy. The works of the Rambam and the works of the Abarbanel and the Ralbag and Melchamas Hashem, the Ralbag and Mekar Chaim, Rabbi, well, great Jewish philosophers. You know, you had Rabbi Yosef Ibn, Rabbi Shlomo Ibn Gabirul has a Sefer Mekar Chaim. You have Reb Sadia Gaon and Munas V'Deis, you have the Rambam, you have the Ralbag, you have Rabbi Yosef Olbo, you have the Abarbanel, Don Yitzchak Abarbanel, and other great Jewish philosophers. And in their works of philosophy, this is a huge discussion. God should remain untouchable. Here, the Mittler Rebbe is saying, fakert, that the tzimtzum, which l'chayre makes God untouchable, because creation is post-tzimtzum, is the way to explain that Ani Hashem lo shanisi means that there's total intimacy. The opposite. But what does intimacy mean? Literally, intimacy means, that we're one, so of course you change me. There's no intimacy with somebody without being changed. Right? A husband who tells a wife, or a wife who tells a husband, that nothing you do or say can touch me. You know, what type of marriage does that look like? Right? Imagine a husband proposes to his wife, to his kala, before the night before they get engaged, and he says, I want to give you good news. I'm the best guy to marry. You know why? Nothing you say or do will ever affect me. I'm not sure the woman will come and say, wow, mommy, I got the best situation in the world. I can do whatever I want. Ich kann schreien, ich kann laufen, ich kann hacken, ich kann gehen. Nothing you do. You can even spend $50,000 a day on the credit card. I won't flinch. I'm perfect. I have everything. I don't need you. I don't need you. You could scream. You can have a bad day. You can have a good day. You could cook. You could not cook. I have 1,000 servants. I don't need you. I don't need you to clean the house. I don't need you to do the laundry. I don't need you to make Shabbos. Ich darf garnished. I don't even need your company. I like myself. No, what are most girls going to do if they're normal? They're going to run, as he says. They're going to run very, very fast. Why? It's gewaltig. It's gewaltig. You have ultimate freedom. You know why? Because there's no relationship. There's no relationship. I don't touch you. You don't touch me. Fine. So you live. And what do they say? Men are from Mars and women are from Venus, right? Kipshutai. When the book came out by Gray, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, and my brother told me he was at a Shabbaton. And it was a secular crowd, and they got very upset about the mechitza between men and women. Like, well, what's this? And then the book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, was becoming a bestseller, and everybody was reading it. So he said, how many miles are there between Mars and Venus? Rebbe Avram, how many? Even he doesn't know. Even he doesn't know. So you understand? So he says, when you're all reading and worshiping a book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, everybody's fine. It's progressive. It's enlightening. The Mechitza is basically, he's saying there's a few feet. Not even 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet. You're going crazy. Intimacy means, of course you affect me. You affect me deeply. That's the power of a relationship. So on one level, it looks like the tzimtzum is almost like, I'm untouchable. I'm untouchable. In fact, the whole world just happens in this emptiness where I'm not even present. Comes the Mittler Rebbe and says, no. The teretz of Tzimtzum is to explain the paradox that the Tzimtzum is not master. That means that the Achdus Hashem of pre-Bria exists in post-Bria. That means you have the deepest intimacy with the divine because you are completely one and subsumed in the ultimate infinity in every moment of experience, but not by delegitimizing the world. Yeah, so Ani Hashem Loisha Nisi is describing the state of all of reality. That means it's describing you. People, when they learn, they don't understand. They think Ani Hashem Loisha Nisi is describing God. The problem is they're using the word God. The word God is a noun who lives somewhere. That's the problem with God. Ani Hashem, I God, Loisha Nisi. The word is Ani Hashem, Yud Kei Vavke. What's Yud Kei Vavke? Reality, not God. Reality, Loisha Nisi. Yud Kei Vavke comes from the word Hayoy, existence. Haya, Hayveyiyah, was, is, will be. What does that mean? Existence is Haya. Hayoy, Hayoy, Yehi, Haya, Yehei. Existence is the word Hayoy. Yud Kei Vavke is existence, Loisha Nisi. The reality, not existence, reality. Now the truth is, pre-Tzimtzum, you don't even use the word reality. That's true, because reality means real. I'm using the word reality because I live in post-Tzimtzum. So I have to use the word reality. Ani Hashem is not God. Ani Hashem is reality. Who's real? Are you reality? Yeah. That's what Loisha Nisi means. Absolute reality. Absolute reality that was there pre-creation. I don't mean pre-creation before time, like the day before creation, because time is also part of creation. We mean that state of consciousness of pre-creation, that exact state is post-creation. What you're saying, there was a tzimtzum. Tzimtzum is like kipshut. So tell me there was no tzimtzum. If you tell me there was no tzimtzum, I'm delegitimizing your existence. And this great revolution of the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe, of that synthesis, that there is a you. In fact, that's what Dira B'Tachtoina means. I want you. I want to be embodied in you, in your body, in your nervous system, in your heart. V'shachanti b'soy cham. In this world. Not just to say you're a mistake, you were always a mistake. The moment will go a little higher, you disappear, you don't even exist. That's not Ani Hashem Loisha Nisi. That's a complete misunderstanding of it. The whole tzimtzum was because I want to be one with you. That's the tzimtzum. Or to put it differently, the whole tzimtzum is to reveal. The whole tzimtzum is to reveal, not to conceal. To reveal that the ultimate oneness of infinity is with you. It's in you, it's with you. That's what it is. So now you'll understand what the Pshol said. What you answered before. What does Ani Hashem Loisha Nisi mean to you? That it's the ultimate healing of the person. Because it means all the pain, all the disappointment, all the darkness, all the struggle, all the helam, concealment after concealment. And heaven knows how much concealment there is. What does that look like in a pre-tzimtzum reality? What does that look like? Ain't safe. So you'll say, but what are you talking about? I'm feeling pain. I'm confused. I'm overwhelmed. There's a tragedy. There's darkness. There's evil. There's insanity. I'm going to start describing now what happens in history. That's why this can't be said philosophically. If it's said philosophically, it's cruel. Or I shouldn't say it's cruel. It could be cruel. This is the experience of holding space for reality as we know it and experience it, and surrendering to a deeper truth where everything is part of infinite bliss and oneness. So you'll say, this is too much for me. Yeah, it's not easy to hold space for both. It's why we constantly learn and internalize. But this is the path to joy. This is the path to bliss. This is the path to healing. I'm going to quote myself. Okay, I usually don't do that, but I'm going to do that. Because last night I was looking at I get an email of people's comments to the shiurim. So yesterday's shiur, so somebody wrote a comment, and they actually write a comment almost on every single class, and it's usually the same topic, the same concept they write. I don't know who it is. And this time I decided to answer. I don't know, I decided to answer. The person wrote, so when God forbid someone gets cancer, for example, he should start laughing because the tzimtzum is so pretty. So I wrote as follows. Cynicism does not get us anywhere. You are hurting. Let's grieve together for your pain and our pain. But cynicism will not heal you, and it won't heal any of us. I have been there, done that. The Rebbe felt the pain of the people and of each individual more than all of us put together. He did not make light of it. He would weep in public. But he also taught us about the infinite light we have. But we do need to grieve for our losses. So let me hold your hand and cry with you for your own innocence that was shattered. I am so sorry for what you went through. As we grieve and embrace our pain, we can also begin to see other parts of us emerge, including our indestructible essence. No, this does not explain suffering. It does not minimize suffering. But the cynical comments on all of these classes won't help heal anybody, not even yourself. Do you want to just dismiss the most healing energy in the universe and poke fun at it? Or do you want to help us all discover our souls? Sending you much empathy, love, and blessings. So, we become cynical. We poke fun at these ideas because we're in pain, and it makes sense. So if I could just say, other crazy religious fanatics, it's a demonstration of the grief that people are in. And it makes a lot of sense. There's no judgment here because it's a survival mechanism. One of the greatest coping mechanisms is kill God. If you can kill God somehow, you'll be able to justify the fact that you don't need to deal with some weird philosophy that's making light of your pain. But what does it keep me? It also keeps me stuck in a trap. And it's a big trap. It's a sophisticated trap. Cynicism is a very sophisticated trap because it's not anger. You're not yelling. You're just cynical. It's like, oh, cancer is Ein Sof. Oh, beautiful, yeah. Beautiful, yeah. War is Ein Sof, right? Oh, the Holocaust. Then we go straight to the Holocaust, right? Oh, Hitler, the SS, right? That's what you're talking about. And I get it. I feel all these things. We're in the same boat. We all live in this world. We know what the Jewish people have been through and are going through, and what people individually go through, even not in the Holocaust, never mind in the Holocaust. And the hostages are going through a Holocaust as we talk, as we speak. And there's no words for it. It's not like, we're giving some cute philosophical equations where everything is, oh, beautiful. Yeah, take some more hostages. Chas v'shalom. The Alter Rebbe, who believed Tzimtzum Shleik Pshuta, used to cry on Tisha B'Av. He didn't say, okay, Tisha B'Av and Simchas Torah is the same thing. Tzimtzum Shleik Pshuta. Oh, the Beis HaMikdash is burning? Wonderful. The Romans think it's burning. We know that it's not burning. But the same Rabbi Akiva who was killed by the Romans laughed. And the Rebbe Paritcher writes that he heard from Reb Zalman Zezma, who heard from the Alter Rebbe, that there were neshamas shelifneihem loy nechrav habayis klal, kamei Reb Shimon ben Yochai. There were souls that they didn't experience Churban Beis HaMikdash, meaning the state of consciousness of pre-Churban existed post-Churban. But they knew that the world was changed, because Tzimtzum is a reality in the world that we experience. That's the whole idea. Tzimtzum Shleik Pshuta is not, it's fake. Your pain is not real. Let's just start dancing. I told you once a meiser, Reb Shlomo Karliner came to visit Alter Rebbe. He came to visit him. It was Tisha B'Av. He came before Tisha B'Av. The night of Tisha B'Av, Reb Shmuel Munkus was sitting in the shul in Liozna, and he was a very lively person. And he saw that people are like, not mourning and grieving Tisha B'Av, but it's like this depression that comes in from, a little detachment. So he started to throw betalach. You know what betalach are? Those betalach, they stick, they throw them in camp always. They stick to you. What are they called? Tisha B'Av bumpers. Okay. I forgot the name. He's thrown. So the Shlomo Kalina tells the Alter Rebbe because of younger light like this, the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. The Alter Rebbe didn't say anything. The next day, in the afternoon, they went for a walk into the forest. And they see a Yid sitting by one of the trees on the ground and sobbing. So Reb Shlomo Kalina tells the Alter Rebbe, and because of younger light like this, the Beis HaMikdash is going to be rebuilt. So the Alter Rebbe said, "C'est the selbe younger man." It's the same guy. It was Reb Shlomo Lukas. It's the selbe younger man. It's the same guy. Huh? This is very deep. Humor is not cynicism. There's a big difference. There's a big difference between cynicism and humor. Cynicism is running away from reality because it's too painful. So I replace it with being said, I don't believe in anything. I don't trust anymore. There's no trust. You can't be alive without trust. We shut our hearts. When there's no trust, the way God made us is we shut our hearts. Our amygdala takes over. We have to survive. You shut your hearts. There's no joyful presence with cynicism. When there's no trust, we stop living. We live functionally as survival. Trust is the engine of life. It's vulnerable. Trust is vulnerable. Trust is a choice every moment. It takes tremendous surrender to trust. But that's where life happens. Trusting, if somebody walks into the room and I'm not trying to control you and manipulate you, what I need is trust. I need to be fully present without any expectations. That's very vulnerable. I don't know what you're going to say. I don't know what you're going to do. That's what bitachon means, trust. So when we say all of this, Ani Hashem lo shanisi, it's not Ani Hashem lo shanisi, somewhere there's a God that hasn't changed. It's describing a space of reality. The ultimate space of reality, which Tzimtzum is not master. Can you take it with intellect? Can you chap this with seichel? You can't chap this with seichel. Seichel won't do it because seichel is a post-Tzimtzum product. How could seichel, which is post-Tzimtzum, relate to the frequency? I'm using the word frequency, but it's not a right word. But how can seichel, which is post-Tzimtzum, relate and absorb the frequency of pre-Tzimtzum when there's no seichel? Or to put it differently, pre-Tzimtzum, the seichel is also Ein Sof. Seichel is also Ani Hashem lo shanisi. Ani Hashem lo shanisi is all of reality is lo shanisi. But without saying the world doesn't exist. So the Mittler Rebbe says, Tzimtzum is the explanation for this. So when Arizal taught Tzimtzum, he was trying to explain Achdus Hashem. He wasn't trying to make more distance. So it's the exact opposite of what most people would think Tzimtzum means. Tzimtzum means distance. He says, no, Tzimtzum means complete intimacy. You're with me. But the integration of this is the whole Avodas Hashem. This is Avodas Hashem. We're touching Avodas Hashem here. It's not a joke. It's the integration of this. And this is not to be passive. It's like, oh, there's war, great, let's do nothing. That's not what Tzimtzum Shalei Kipshutei means. On the contrary, you become the most powerful person. People think, Tzimtzum Shalei Kipshutei, oh, so you don't exist. Okay, so you're done, you're dead, fine. That's not what Tzimtzum Shalei Kipshutei means. God is not dead, Chas v'shalom. God is the most creative thing in the world, no? Isn't he called creator? Because he's creative, right? So when you are Ein Sof, what do you think happens to you? You become the most creative person in the world. You know why? Because it's not your creativity. You're channeling creativity. What is creativity? Creativity is, what's the force of creativity? Where does it come from? It's my ego. Creativity means the koyach habayre. The moment you become one with bayre, you are the most creative thing that ever happened. The moment you're a channel for the Creator, your creativity is infinite. Now that's a good way to live. Suddenly the scientist made peace with Ani Hashem lo shanisi. So you'll say, so why do we talk about processing pain, feeling pain, releasing pain, being honest with our pain? And the answer is, because Tzimtzum is Shaloi Kipshutei, so we're not afraid of going anywhere. I want you to understand that. If Tzimtzum is Kipshutei, so to hold on to Ein Sof, we have to be afraid of going certain places. If Tzimtzum is Shaloi Kipshutai, I'm not afraid to go anywhere because Tzimtzum is Shaloi Kipshutai. So there's nothing that will keep me away from my infinity. L'mayla mayla adin kes, l'mata mata adin tachlas. Even l'mayla mayla adin ketz. More concealment, more concealment, more concealment. It's the same Ein Sof. What do you mean it's completely concealed? Tzimtzum Shaloi Kipshutai. Now understand what that means in a person's life. I'm not afraid to go anywhere. Scary, yeah. Painful is painful and scary, but not dangerous. Feeling pain is scary. I should say feeling pain is painful, but it's not dangerous. Because it's painful, it's scary. No. In fact, it's the only healing. If you say Tzimtzum Kipshutai, there's boundaries. We're not going there. Because the moment I go there, I'm detached. If you say Tzimtzum Shaloi Kipshutai, there's no nekuda that you can't touch. There's no nekuda that you're afraid of going to. Yeah. When I say going everywhere, I don't mean going against Shulchan Aruch. I don't mean going I don't mean going everywhere physically. I should go. Going everywhere, I mean emotionally. I can touch every part of my life. I could look at it without fear. Yeah, of course, you have to protect your soul, you have to protect your body. I don't mean go anywhere, jump off cliffs and go to clubs that you don't belong, that are destructive places. But I mean, if I did go to those places, I could look at it. I don't run away from reality. Because reality is Tzimtzum Shaloi Kipshutai. I can heal reality. That's what Ani Hashem L'Shanisi means. If you say Tzimtzum Kipshutai, no. This is off. This part of me is too dark. But this is not because I'm apathetic, not because I don't care. Yeah, dark, light, that's not the word. I can be fully present in reality. Meaning, embracing tzimtzum, embracing the experience of reality as tzimtzum, and paying tribute to it, paying homage to it, paying respect to it, because that's my experience, which is part of the design of creation. It's not a mistake. God is the one who made the tzimtzum. And in that reality, saying tzimtzum shalei kipshutai. Tzimtzum shalei kipshutai doesn't mean there's no tzimtzum. It means that tzimtzum itself is part of Ani Hashem L'Shanis. The Olam understands a little what I'm saying. It's deep stuff. It's not so. Yeah, cynicism is a very sad thing because it's mamash the symptom of this. It's the spear. It's like you don't trust anybody. It's like, oh yeah, what is he going to sell me? There was a person who a few years ago started to come to the Shura Mechsidus. And he told this to me much later. He said, I came with so much cynicism. He told his son schlepped him here. He told his son, I'm done listening to shiurim and especially to rabbis. I'm done. He's been disappointed, he's been hurt, he's a sensitive person, he's a deep person. He's like, what's the next thing that I'm going to be sold? The Brooklyn Bridge, they sold me already. The George Washington, they sold. The Williamsburg, they sold. I'm not ready to buy the Tappan Zee. I'm putting words into his mouth, but you get the point. I've been sold enough bridges in my life. What are you going to sell me? Gaza? Trump already has it. Trump bought it. It's not available for sale. Cynicism is really putting up a defense mechanism. I put on a bulletproof vest. Don't get close. And even if you shoot, I'm fine. I have a bulletproof vest. So what are you going to tell me? And even the inspiration that I hear comes through a bulletproof vest. So tell me, how could you daven when you have a bulletproof vest? How could you even give someone a kiss if you have a bulletproof vest? How can you hug? What's the most beautiful thing about Tehillim? David cries, he laughs, he dances, he fights. He's never cynical. Now he is seeing corruption, trust me. Anyone he ever came close to tried to murder him. Usually such a person, you just become cynical. Avi v'imi azavuni. His father-in-law, Shaul HaMelech, is called Mashiach Hashem. Mashiach Hashem, Shaul HaMelech, is also wanted to kill him. Anyone he touched, his brothers, everybody abandoned him. Talk about abandonment. You look through Tillim, 150 poems, you're looking for a little cynicism. Come on, give me a little cynicism. Give me some funny, cute joke about Shalashudas, about Rebbes, about Rosh Hashivas, about the Orthodox world, about Charedim, about Haredi media. You ever read Haredi media? You don't. Okay. You're lucky. When the Alter Rebbe got up in Shklov and he said, Tamuru ki tov avaya, versucht wird ihr sehen, als der Eberster is good. He didn't tell them, trust me. He says, Tamu, I taste it. Tamuru, taste it. And if you're tasting that it's horrible, it's not Hashem. Somebody's selling you some egotistic religious trip, which is their own issue, which they need to heal. But cynicism always eclipses pain. I never saw cynicism not eclipsing pain and suffering. Don't trust anymore, you won't get hurt. I remember somebody once told me, if you want love, don't spend time with people. Get yourself 3 dogs like me and you'll get love. That's what he told me years ago. A man told me. He says, if you want love in your life, don't deal with people. Stay away from people. 3 dogs and you'll have love. You come home in a bad mood and the dog licks you. You come home in a worse mood, the dog is even nicer to you. You come home completely tzebrachen and verhakt, the dog is all over you. You come home to your spouse in a bad mood. Arois, go to Shul, go to Daf Yomi, go to Ma'ariv, Baruch Shepatrani, Me'ona Shaloza. See what he told me? If you want love, don't deal with people. Do minimal handlings with people, stay with the dogs. I get it. I know what type of family he grew up in. I'm not judging him, I get it. Yeah. And it's really terrible pain. It's a lifelong journey of choosing trust. But it's not a lifelong journey to escape cynicism. It's a lifelong journey because the animal consciousness, which is rooted in post-symptom, will always try to inculcate me with fear. That's what it does. And worst scenarios. And it makes sense. It's trying to survive. And the way it survives is by building up the ego or the fear ad infinitum. Somebody wrote a beautiful comment yesterday. This is the opposite of a cynical comment. Somebody wrote, pre-tzimtzum, infinity was finite. Post-tzimtzum, finiteness becomes infinite. The Nefesh HaBahamis takes fear and insecurity and makes that infinite. Pre-tzimtzum, the infinite was finite. The infinite is also finite. He has no problem with finiteness. God is not afraid of finiteness. He has to be infinite. Hashem doesn't have to look like Hashem. Hashem could look like a cup of coffee. Hashem could look like Avraham Avinu giving tongue and mustard to 3 guests. Hashem doesn't look anything. Hashem could look like you sitting on the ground and playing Monopoly with your child. Hashem could look like you taking your son horseback riding. Hashem doesn't look like anything. He doesn't have to look one way. Hashem could look like Ein Sof and he could look like Vul. Avraham Avinu says, Alma Savra Meyal Avdecha. Don't leave your servant when I'm going to feed my host. So the Marianayim says, where's Hashem going to leave? To Hawaii? I should experience the same dveikus that I have in Tefillah, Nevuah, and Torah when I'm giving food to my guests. When you're eating lunch or you're eating supper with your wife, that's the same dveikus. What Hashem is not doesn't need Ein Sof. It could be Sof. So pre-tzimtzum, b'chol drechecha de'eyu means in everything there could be intimacy. If it's l'shem shamayim, if it's connection. What does a good marriage look like? Certain things. When you take out the garbage, you could be connected. When you go on vacation, you could be connected. And when you're talking about the bills, you can also be connected. People think marriage is yeshiva week, you go to Miami and you meet Borough Park. Borough Park moves to Miami or Bunsen. What does a good marriage look like? Everything. Sometimes you're taking out the garbage, and sometimes you're cooking potatoes, and sometimes you're paying bills, sometimes you're talking about an issue with children. Good marriage doesn't have to look like something. It's not, this infinite bliss where we're, watching a sunset and writing poetry at the ocean. It's amazing, gewaldig. But if a good marriage is that, then ach and vei, because, unless you're living at the beach, lo'elam vad, and someone else is paying the bills, and your kids, are homeschooled by the beach, fine. I mean, if you can do that, pull it off, ashrecha. Huh? My point is, I'm just giving a mashal. Pre-tzimtzum, yeah, the finite is infinite. Post-tzimtzum, pre-tzimtzum, the infinite is finite. Post-tzimtzum, the finite becomes infinite. So trust is a choice every day. But we don't live anymore in the frequency of cynicism. In other words, once you go here, this becomes your life. There's growth, of course, there's challenges, but it's not every day recreating this. That's not the avodah. Once your nefesh habahamis gets the memo of chassidus in a real way, you're in. You have to maintain it. It's like a plant. If you don't water it every day, it's going to die. It's like a candle. If you don't put in oil, it's going to burn out. You can't say, I learned 20 years ago and I got it. That doesn't work that way. It's like you were married 20 years ago, you were in love. No, every day there has to be a relationship. The journey is not to get sucked back in. But you understand, that's the journey. It's so easy to fall out. It's easy to fall off the planet. That's easy. So the journey is maintenance, constant. That's the avodah. That's every day. It's every moment. It's every moment. Every meal could take me away. Every conversation could take me away. Conversation can go to lashon hara, rechilus, or just dvarim b'teilim. It takes me away from achtos. A meal, I could sit down to eat an egg with a bagel, right? And I get lost. Suddenly, it's not an egg in order because I'm eating as part of life to nourish my holy body to be able to be one with God, but rather the egg and the bagel and the butter, that becomes a distraction of life. They own me, I don't own it. And therefore I have to eat a second bagel, and of course a third bagel. And then for dessert, there's always some cheesecake. And if it's a good bris, you also take some babka. And sushi for home dessert. My point is, every meal is an opportunity for dvekas or for distraction. That's avodah, because it's so easy to fall out. But it's not that every day you have to go this and this, and it's a struggle again. You typhus what I'm saying? Okay, you'll get there. It's like in a good marriage. I'll give you it's in a good marriage. If a person has a very dysfunctional marriage, every day could be a Gehenna. If a person has a very good marriage, because they worked on it, few people are blessed that it just comes easy. But today, most people have to work on it hard. And sometimes even when people work on it, it doesn't work because there could be some very serious challenges. There has to be two people working. I mean, it's not a simple thing. But let's say people, Baruch Hashem, worked it out and they have a very good marriage. It can't be default. It's not default. It's not cruise control. Every day you have to work on it, but you're not working every day on creating a good marriage. You're there, but you're working every day to maintain it, to continue to grow. You understand the difference? You're not dealing with darkness every day in the marriage. There's going to be things that will come up. There's going to be a crisis. There's going to be a hurdle. But you're in the parsha already. You're in the zone. Huh? Listen, there's always hurdles. Life throws curveballs, and then you have to reinvent yourself. And every curveball, when you understand something like I'm sure you understand that every curveball is just a mission. It's a mission to reinvent yourself. It's not a curveball there to destroy you. But there's an opportunity. But there's a part of us that says, oh, you're being destroyed, become cynical, run away. Drifting away is really tzimtzum kipshutai. I can be present because what's going to come up? If you want to understand in psychological terms what's tzimtzum shalei kipshutai, at least one aspect of it is that you could be fully present right here, right now, without the need to run away. Take that in. Yeah. Tzimtzum shalai kipshutai on one level psychologically means you could be fully present right here, right now, no matter what, without the need to run, to escape. Emotionally, I mean, and physically. But emotionally, I don't have to run. That's what it means. I could be fully present right here. Because connection with Ein Sof is constant. It's just like pre-creation. You have the same intimacy with Hashem. that you had before creation. You'll say, before creation, I wasn't there. It was only him. That's the point. It's still only him, and that's who you are. The burden of ego is the worst burden that ever existed. We think, I exist, I want to exist, I need validation. No, your trauma needs validation. You don't need validation. You need to validate Hashem. You don't need validation. Your trauma needs validation. Why don't we never validate ourselves in davening? Do you ever think about it? If a therapist would have written davening, what would have it looked like? Baruch Shama V'Ya'olam? No. Baruch Yosef Yitzchak Jacobson. I'm so special. I love myself. I'm powerful. I'm amazing. I'm incredible. I'm good looking. I'm skinny. Anything else? I'm handsome. I'm gorgeous. Come on, some validation. Ich bin nicht kein Ganev. At least ich prove nicht sein kein Ganev. I sometimes pay taxes. I try to pay taxes. Angus Mayas. Has to be honest. Skinny. Yehi chvoid Hashem la'olam? No, yehi chvoidi la'olam. Esmach ani b'masai. Yehi shmi mevoirech ma'atavad olam. Mimizrach shemesh ad mevoyoi muhul al shmi. Like Elon Musk, like Trump. Bishvili nivra olam. Especially my name is Jacobson. Bishvili nivra olam. You know, everything is Baruch Shama, Yishtabach Shimcha. Somebody once told me, how many compliments does God need a day from millions of people? How many? This is called security? Now, what's the answer to all of this? Once you learn Chassidus, you understand. The worst thing you can do for yourself is seek validation. It means you're separate. Ego, we always say ego, easing God out, easing greatness out. The greatest self-validation in the world is bittul. There's no greater validation in the world. It means you're Ein Sof. What's bittul? What does the word bittul mean? Milk falls into a pot of cholent. Bittul b'shishim. What does it mean bittul b'shishim? What happens to the milk? It's there. Got lost. It's nullified in a ratio of 60-1. Bittul b'shishim. So what happens to the milk? There's milk. You're eating cholent and there's milk inside. You're allowed to. Bittul b'shishim. What happened to the milk? Says the Rosh Maseches Chulin, Ha'isur nefach liyos k'moya heter. The milk is part of the cholent. It became cholent. Well, it didn't become cholent. It's milk. Sorry. What chemistry was changed? Says the halacha, because there's a ratio of 60. So it overwhelms the milk and it transforms it. Now it's a chelik of the cholent. That's bittul. So when the milk is bottled in the cholent, it becomes part of the cholent. So when a person is bottled to Ein Sof, what is it? You're Ein Sof. So is bittul nullification? The bittul is your shmata? So when you say Baruch Shama V'Ya'olam, Yehi chvoid Hashem la'olam, Yishtabach Shem Chalad Malkeinu, that's what you need. Ani Hashem lo shanisi. That's too. Yeah. There's no deeper validation. The need for external validation is a survival need that comes from separateness. Give me a compliment. When I finish the class, tell me how good the class was. Okay, remember, I want not an applause, I want a standing ovation. If I have a standing ovation, it'll take about 3 minutes until... It'll be 3 minutes that I'll feel good about myself. After 3 minutes, I'll go look for something else. I'll go have some macaroni in the soup room. I'm finished with the macaroni. Now I need something else. Hopefully somebody else will give me a compliment in the tent. When we're done with that, on the way home, hopefully somebody will tell me that I changed his life. And then I'm sure to get a text that's going to ruin everything. It's like, how you talking? You said this, you ruined me, whatever, apicursus. I'm like, okay, who's the next person giving me validation? You understand how it works? It's not just it's tiring, it's torturous, it's fake news. It's fake news. As Nehemiah calls it, trauma. But I'm serious. I told somebody the other day, it was an epiphany. I said, what's the definition of trauma? That you have to take yourself seriously. What's the definition of healing? You don't have to take yourself seriously. You could take God seriously. That's the difference. You understand the difference? In trauma, I have to take myself seriously because what else do I have? If I'm not going to take myself seriously, nobody else is taking me seriously. When you're healed, you know that God takes you seriously. You're good. You could take God seriously. You don't have to take yourself seriously. Healthy people could make jokes about themselves in a real way. They're light. You're light. You know, when you're healthy, you're light. You don't have weight. You know, when you go down into the water with scuba divers, they go with this heavy, heavy oxygen tank. It's crazy to carry. Once you go into the water, it's weightless. That's what happens with the ego when you go into the olam of chassidus, alma diskasi. You go into the water, kamayim liyam chasim. You're weightless. You know how good it is to be weightless? You ever went scuba diving? These heavy oxygen tanks, because if you're going to be under the water for 45 minutes, an hour, and some people go, real divers, they go for a long time, so you need oxygen. You're not a fish, you're a person, you need oxygen. It's very, very heavy. They carry it, it's extremely heavy. You go under the water, it loses all its weight. You're almost like a fish. Fakert, walking on the ground is much harder, there's much more weight than when you're underwater. You're one with nature. It's a tremendous experience. But spiritually, that's what it really is. That's what it means to let go of the ego, to let go of the weight of existence. So you're saying, thank you, this is all fantasy. We live in a world where I have to carry weight. If I don't carry weight, if I don't protect myself, you're going to protect me? You're paying my bills? You're going to fight for my kids? I get it. So what do we do with this? Is that the Chevra Teufels Dinyan? The Tzvi, you understand?
Yeah. I understand is that taken to its ultimate pain, when someone wants it in their life, then they feel no connection.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah. It's very hard. Listen, there's no rational way of explaining pain. Of the minute we should never minimize it and rationalize it and explain it and say it's not a big deal. That's not the point here. In fact, I'm going to say something. Saying that pain is not a big deal means I don't believe tzimtzum shaloi kipshutai. I have to minimize your pain because, again, I'm afraid of invalidating. Why am I afraid of validating? It's almost like if you feel pain, there's no God anymore. Tzimtzum shaloi kipshutai means I'm not afraid to validate anything. That's the point where it is. The truth is there too. Ani Hashem Lo Shanisi includes reality, including the reality of your own feelings and experiences. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of darkness.
That's when you have connection.
Because there's connection everywhere. Don't be afraid of darkness. And I don't have logical explanations. So who needs the darkness? Who needs this? It's too much. You know how much I've been suffering? I know. And all I can do is embrace you and cry with you and grieve with you. And not try to reduce it to some intellectual, cute, physics, mathematics equation with some cute Kabbalistic term, You're like a Gilgul of Yeravim ben Nevat, and therefore whatever. You know what people do to each other? You're like some Gilgul of, you're a Gilgul of Para, you're a Gilgul of Nebuchadnezzar, you're a Gilgul of Haman, so just be thankful, I'm not talking about somebody who knows really who you're a Gilgul of. I'm not talking about that. The reason I looked at somebody, he saw who he was a Gilgul of. And I'm talking about your Gilgulim. You understand? The main thing is, here's the bill. Whenever Gilgulim comes with a bill, be careful. It's like, let my previous Gilgul pay you. Isn't that good? Let my previous Gilgul pay you. He has a lot of money. If I'm a Gilgul of Para, he had a lot of money. I'm a Gilgul of Kairach, he certainly had money. Let him pay you. Haman had a lot of money. So that's the real idea of Ani Hashem Lo Shanis. This is all an answer to your question, by the way. It's a mitzumtzum dika answer to your question. His question was, what do you care if God changed? Who cares if God changed? Why is he so vulnerable that he's not allowed to change? In fact, if a person says, I never change, what does that mean? It means they're stuck up, uptight, stubborn. It's rachmanis on them. People change. Somebody says, grow. Everything there is to know, I know. Really. So what's wrong if God doesn't? If God changes. So philosophically, they'll tell you, because it's Hashem, Ein Sof. What do you want, infinity change? What is he going to be tomorrow? More infinite? He's perfect today, tomorrow he's going to be more perfect, the next day more perfect, the next day more perfect. That's a philosophical construct. It's also a seichel construct. But philosophically, it's a very big deal. Ani Hashem, I can't change. If I'm God, what? People are vulnerable, so we change. Yeah, I'm ignorant. Yeah, I grow. I grow physically. Hopefully I grow. Some people grow physically. Some people should be growing emotionally and spiritually and intellectually. That's what we want to do. Ziknei Talmidei Chachamim, the Mishnah says in the end of Maseches Kinim, Kol Zman Shemaskinim Daitem Misyashev V'Salein. The older you get, the more mature you get. Ziknei Amayaretz is the opposite. Daitem Mitarefes. But with Hashem, it's Lo Shanisi. But here we're learning something much deeper. It's not a philosophical construct. It's the ultimate redemption of reality. That's Tani Hashem Lo Shanisi. It's that there's no point where you're abandoned. And the moment you experience this in your nervous system, you're in a place of redemption. In fact, it's so beautiful that you can't even imagine how blissful it is. All the bliss that we imagine doesn't even come close to this tainug ha'atzmi, this bliss of the oneness. I'm not talking about selfish bliss, like, oh, now I feel good. But the pure dveikus of it can't get any better. It's a rhythm of it can't get any better. I once asked a person, very, very worked out person who also learned a lot of chassidus and internalized it very well. So I asked him, do you want Mashiach? Do you really want Mashiach? So this person said, yeah. I said, why? The response was very interesting. Because then we'll actually be able to have so much fun with each other. We'll be able to have so much fun with each other. We'll be able to enjoy each other so much. I didn't expect it. But it was a real answer. This wasn't a textbook answer. It was a real answer. We'll be able to have so much fun with each other. Because no layers, no blockages, no cover-ups, soul to soul. Which means we'll be able to have so much fun with God, with ourselves. So, the purpose is for us to have fun? Really? That's the purpose? Like to have fun? Let's go to a sandbox, let's go to Great Adventures, Six Flags, and go on roller coasters and have fun. The word fun by us is like, baby, we'll have fun. Life is not about fun. Life is about responsibility, right? But the Alter Rebbe says, what's the core of everything? Nisava HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What's Nisava? Nisava is taiva. It's fun, but not fun in a lightheaded way. Fun, let's drink Slurpees and have fun. It's the deepest joy of love, of intimacy. That at the core of everything is love, is oneness. Is dveikus. Achdus Hashem. Einoid Mulvade. And if there's a place that Einoid Mulvade doesn't reach, so it's not Einoid Mulvade. That's what we keep on saying. If there's a place where if I cannot be present right here, right now, knowing that this is Kodesh HaKadoshim. Knowing this is Kodesh HaKadoshim. Really? This is Kodesh HaKadoshim? Ochen vei to Kodesh HaKadoshim. If this is what Kodesh HaKadoshim looks like. You walk into your kitchen. You look your son in the eyes. You look your daughter in the eyes. You look your wife in the eyes. You look yourself in the eyes. And this is Kodesh HaKadoshim. If I cannot experience that, it's not Einoid Mulvade. It's Einoid Mulvade besides my kitchen, besides my bedroom, besides my office, besides Einoid Mulvade, besides my crazy heart. My crazy heart is excluded from Einoid Mulvade. God is everywhere besides in my nervous system. No. The whole Chassidus came to teach us differently. Yeah. But for this, you have to work through the symptom, because if I don't work through the symptom, it's not real. It's, as I said yesterday, it's bypassing. It's not real. It's about working through the tzimtzum. The Chevra Taifas a little what we're talking about. So it's like a paradox. So there was a tzimtzum, there was no tzimtzum. There was. That's exactly the point. This paradox is the core of Avodah. Don't run here and don't run there. Don't tell me there was no tzimtzum and all is just good. And that means I deny reality. And there's people who do that. There's people who deny reality by going into heaven, and there's people who deny reality by going into hell. But it's the same thing. They both believe tzimtzum is kipshutai. Did you hear what I just said? Those who run to heaven and become detached from reality because it's too painful. And those who run to hell and become detached from the higher reality because it's so painful. Both believe tzimtzum is kipshutai. My response is, I become an angel disassociated from earth. And your response is, you become a cynical, harsh, tough, unmoved, untrusting human being. We're doing exactly the same thing. In fact, I'm going to say something in parentheses, because this is very, very sensitive. And there's still a lot of research that has to be done. One of the most unbelievable theories that's now emerging in the world of science and medicine is that mental illness may not just be a chemical imbalance, as so many psychiatrists like to say, but it's really a form, a way of dealing with the pain of life. For example, bipolar, schizophrenia, borderline personality, narcissist personality, which are all serious challenges. Serious. So there's a lot of research being done now that it's a form of responding to pain. If the pain is so deep, disassociating from reality is a very, very logical coping mechanism, which is an incredible development. But that's a separate inyan, and it's a very sensitive sugya, and of course, this doesn't mean everybody should go off medication, chas v'shalom. What it means is that there's a lot more than what we see. It's not just face value, this person is just, chemical imbalance in this. It's much deeper than that. It's connected to their experience of ruchnius and attachment. But I'm saying this all, some people respond by becoming Ein Sof, by going to Bli Gvul, and some people respond by going to Gvul, you understand? And they reinforce the tzimtzum. What was the tzimtzum? The tzimtzum was separating infinity from finiteness. That was the whole shir yesterday. Whenever we separate infinity from finiteness in our life, we're reinforcing the tzimtzum rather than healing the tzimtzum. Some people run to infinity, disassociate from finiteness. Some people run into finiteness and disassociate from infinity, which is cynicism, or fear, or dread, or depression. What's depression? Depression is the world is a horrible, sick place. And I'm in a horrible, sick situation. And these are normal experiences. So I reinforce the tzimtzum. So it's all a effect of tzimtzum in my life. And what we're learning is, let's heal the tzimtzum. What's healing the tzimtzum? Bringing the infinite and the finite back together as it was pre-tzimtzum. So who needed the tzimtzum? That's going to be the point. This is to create the real achdus. Because pre-tzimtzum, the finite and the infinite were one because the finite was subsumed in the infinite. The infinite was finite. So the tzimtzum is that the finite becomes infinite. Can the infinite and the finite become one without canceling out each other? Why are you sighing? Why are you krechzing? You feel that for you it's a lifelong journey, but I'll remind you what you texted me a few weeks ago after one of the shiurim. So the moment you felt that once, that means it's in your system. So it's only a question of Helam and Gilui. It's only a question of how revealed it is at this moment. The fact that you experience what you experienced a few weeks ago means that it's there. So that's your true reality. So there's blockages. So it's not a lifelong journey. It's a lifelong journey of maintenance and growth. But it's not a lifelong journey of battling every day with the same intense darkness. That's not a lifelong journey. There's yelchu mechayel el chayel. There's going deeper and deeper and higher and higher. I'm not denying what you're feeling. I'm not afraid of your feelings. That's what we're talking about. But I'm saying that you should realize that what you experienced a few weeks ago was very genuine and very authentic. So it's there. But life gives us blockages. I was traveling the other day with Rabbi Waxman, Rabbi Ephraim Waxman Shlita. He told me a story, like a joke, very cute. I don't remember the beginning of it, but the nekuda was, there was a guy who didn't have animals in the zoo. He needed a bear, he needed a tiger, he needed an elephant, he needed a lion, and he didn't have. So he hired people and he dressed them up. And they were the animals in the zoo so that he could continue running the zoo. It was an important parnasa for him. So usually they weren't allowed to talk because, they're animals. They're not supposed to talk. But, after a while, they started to have conversations. So one of the people who was there was completely overwhelmed. He heard words. So he said, from here's a proof. I'm forgetting the details. I guess from here is a proof that that even a behemoth, once in a while, there's a gilui, there's an eis ratzon, it could say a few words. Even a behemoth. Yeah. And they wrote up a whole scientific theory that even an animal once in 10, 20 years could say a few words. Why is it funny? It's funny is because the theory is wrong. A behemoth doesn't say a few words. So why do they say a few words? Because they're people. The few words that they said shows this is who they are. They're people. They're not animals. Just usually they're animals, but they're people. The one word that they said reveals. A behemoth doesn't say words once in 70 years or once in 20 years. The fact that they spoke once in 10 years means that they're people. Verstehst was ich sag? We look at our best moments and we say it's a fluke. Once in 20 years I have a Isaurus. No. A behemoth never has a Isaurus. The fact that you have it once in 20 years means you're a human being. Your best moment is who you are. Your worst moment is who you think you are because of your blockages. We define ourselves based on our worst moments, and our best moments are like flukes of nature. No, you're speaking because you're a person, you're not a behemoth. The problem is I'm in a cage, so my whole life I'm living like a behemoth. Define yourself by your best moments, not by your worst moments. Yeah, it's true. Because the best moments is revealing who you are. Like the Rambam says, because you're a Jew. Don't define yourself based, like we love defining ourselves based on our worst moments. I'm a depressed, horrible addict. I'm a sugar. No, really? So how did you have this experience a week ago that was completely... it was a fluke. It wasn't a fluke, it was you. You know it was you. That's how you define yourself. You say, but it doesn't feel that way. I get it. That's called symptom. Okay, I just want to learn Mamash another few minutes because I want to finish the paragraph. And tomorrow, Friday morning, we'll continue with the Mishalim. So the Mittler Rebbe says the teretz for the paradox is symptom. The if creation, if the shefa, the flow of Hashem was like Ila va'alul, Ila va'alul means like a gradual or even an intense gradual transformation from a higher level to a lower level. Like the seed morphs into a tree. The seed of an apple becomes an apple tree. So the seed is the ilah, the cause, and the tree is the alul. The seed and the egg of a father and a mother, of a husband and a wife, right, morph into an embryo, which becomes the fetus, which becomes the child. So the ilah is the seed and the egg, and the alul is the effect, the child. And the child then produces more eggs and more sperm, and that's how it continues, right? Adam and Chava and their children. So everything is ilah va'alul. Your thoughts is your ilah. The words is the alul. Everything in life that we do is ilah va'alul. Right? You have wood and you produce it into a table. You invest $1, and the dollar, continues to grow, hopefully. Ila v'olol, ila v'olol. So the way naturally you would think creation is also ila v'olol. That's the shefa flows. The ila is Hashem, and the olol is what comes out of the shefa. The seed produces the tree, and the tree produces another seed, and that seed produces another tree, and that produces another seed. Because every tree produces apples, which has seeds, which produce new trees. That's ila v'olol. If you say that creation is ila v'olol, so then there's shirei and espilus. The source is transformed by the process. The seed doesn't stay the seed becomes a tree. It's very nice, it's an impressive thing. But that's the vart. Ila v'olol. There's change. There's change in espilus. It's affected. Espilus in the word pull. But since the flow in Kabbalah, it's always called oir, not shefa. There's a difference between oir and shefa. There's a big distinction. He explains in the Mamer between oir and shefa, light, and shefa, hashpa, flow. The Rebbe has a Mamer, and he explains that the word oir that's used in Kabbalah is to negate the word shefa, which creates a change in the mashpia. A mashpia can't flow shefa without him changing. If he's a real mashpia, he's defined by the shefa. The shefa defines him. It changes him. That's what a real mashpia is, because you're involved, you're connected. So you're giving part of yourself. During the hashpah, he can't be thinking about something else. It's not just on. That's the oir and shefa. That's why, right? If all the students fall asleep on the mashpia, it affects them. If I put down the Venetian blind on the light of the sun doesn't go into a depression. If there's a candle burning and then I cover it, I don't want the candle is fine. That's the oir and shefa. So it's not a stam of philosophical word. That shefa changes the mashpia. And if there's more people sitting in the room, if I have to explain it to more people, the mashpia is completely enclosed. It's like ila v'olol. You're defined by it. And therefore you're changed by it. And that's how it's supposed to be. That's what a real mashpia is. That's why it's hard to be a real mashpia, a real teacher, a real mentor, a real educator. You know, if a therapist is sitting in the room or a mashpia is sitting with you in the room and is completely unmoved, something is off. The mashpia means you're changed by the encounter. You're different. Oir, the reason Kabbalah used oir is because oir is very interesting. Oir is also mashpia. In fact, there's nothing as powerful as oir. Exactly. But the moyer doesn't get a high or a low and goes through it. Of course, it's a physical muscle, but it's just trying to bring out a point. It doesn't change the moyer. The moyer is not changed, the source of the light. The mashpia is changed through the shefa. You can't just say it's the same, everything is the same. It's not the same. That's what shefa means. It's ila v'olol. The seed that is invested in building, in creating a tree, the seed is going through a metamorphosis. When my thoughts are coming into words and I'm teaching, I can't do something else. I can't be on my phone sending emails. It's not going to work. It's not just the words are automatic, it's like I'm ready, like a light is coming from you. When you come into a room, I could see you, right? The light that comes from you, you may not even know if I see you or not, right? Unless, we have our own insecurities. This is very interesting. Something popped into my mind. There was a photographer, his name was Friedrich Wyszynski. He's a Russian artist. He was a Russian artist. He was hired by the Kremlin, and he did photos of Russian leaders for decades. Then he came to America, and he was a very interesting guy. He was a character, and he started to photograph the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And he has the most beautiful pictures because he was an artist. And I remember he once came to my parents for a Shabbos meal. So my brother asked him, "What's your favorite picture of the Rebbe?" He asked him, he made thousands. So he said, he told us about a certain picture, which is known. It's a picture, the Rebbe is in glasses, and he's sitting He's sitting on a box. Looks like he's sitting on a box by a table with a lamp, and he's looking at something. It's Tisha B'Av. It's from an angle. It's from the side, and he's saying Eichor, Kinnis, Tisha B'Av. So I've seen the picture. So my brother, somebody asked him, why that one? Like, on the contrary, you don't see the full face. It's just an angle. So he said, because when you look at this picture, you would never guess that at this moment, 5,000 people are looking at him. You would never see that. You know, if you know that 5,000 people are looking at you, it's like, you know, like you're looking at it. You are who you are. The fact, when I walk into a room, the fact that somebody sees me, it's about their experience. It doesn't change the Mayer. Shefa means, no, you're here. It's you. You understand the word? Shefa changes you. Shefa changes the mashpia. You're not the same. Yeah. Wo is the krechts? He doesn't mean the Mayer doesn't care. The Mayer is self-centered. That's not the point. The Mayer is not changed. And it's also a beautiful model in life. Because when we connect to people, if you're a real mashpia, you also have to have the concept of Mayer. You know, how could you listen to people's stories and pain and go home and not go crazy? I was telling that I was reading emails that I was getting, and they weren't emails that were very happy emails. It was about serious issues. So my wife came in and she started, to see one of, she's like, I don't know how you read this and stay sane. I just don't know how you read this and stay sane. Its truth is, it's a very deep challenge, because if you have empathy, if you don't have empathy, see, you're shekayach, as we're talking about, go run away. If you have empathy, in other words, you're a mashpia, you're involved, you're connected, you're writing and you're there, so then it goes both ways. I change you, but you change me. That's what a mashpia means. Mashpia changes the mushpa, the mushpa changes the mashpia. And if not, he's not a mashpia. But there's another element of Mayer. Mayer means that there's a certain core that remains intact and whole in all of the vicissitudes of life. And that's equally important, because if you're constantly readjusting your identity based on somebody else's story, you can't even be of help to them. You understand what I'm saying? Like if you become, if a doctor in the middle of the surgery has a panic attack, right? He's not being kind, he's being selfish. I can't use the word if he has a panic attack, but I mean, a good doctor doesn't mean he doesn't have empathy. Tov Sheberoi from Gehenna means a good doctor experiences Gehenna because he feels the patient. But there's a certain role. I'm a doctor. I wasn't hired to be able to scream and cry about how horrible this operation is. I was hired to heal the person. If he faints when he sees blood, he's not helping. He's part of the problem. It's not why I hired you as a doctor who's been doing this for 40 years. You understand what I'm saying? It's not selfish. The kudah we're bringing out here is, Oid is not Shefa. Shefa changes the mashpia. The Olul changes the Ilah. The doesn't change the Mayer. What do you mean? It comes from the Mayer. It comes from the Mayer. It's radiated from the Mayer. In fact, it reflects the source amazingly, but it doesn't change the source. If we could put a cover around the sun is not going to say, oh, thank God, I'm going to have a good day today. Nobody's going to use me. A bissel privacy, a little intimacy, I can go on vacation. You put a cover around the moon, you put a cover around the candle. Oh, Baruch Hashem, leave me alone. I don't need to deal with all these mishugayim. The Baal Ailul, the Friedrich Rebbe once said, he said, Hashemesh yotza ala aretz, as the zun kumt areis in the free, wird sie roit farbusha, favem en sheinech. When the sun comes out, it becomes red from shame. Who am I shining? Before whom am I shining? We put a cover around the sun. Baruch Hashem. But a mashpia, right? We tell the mashpia, Ken schweigen. Nobody's listening. They all fell asleep. Okay, I'll have a relaxed day. It changes him. And if they are listening, because he's there, he's invested. So the Alter Rebbe says that's why in Kabbalah the word is not Shefa. Doesn't change the Mayer. So everything that happens in the is in the not in the Mayer. Conceptually, what that means is that all of existence is a product of So Ani Hashem lo shanisi. Furthermore, v'gamu ayidei tzimtzum. But not only is it oir not shefa, even the oir itself is through a tzimtzum of frat tzimtzum addition shulbay for silik v'diluk shenistalak v'nasa chalom akampani v'dekel acharezeh nimshach rakav kotze v'dag. And the first tzimtzum is siluk, which means the light, as we explained. The infinite light was completely removed. You have an empty space, and then a line comes back in. In addition to the fact that the tzimtzum itself is only in the oir, not in the moyer. But even in the oir, it's not just that the oir creates the world. It's the oir goes through a tzimtzum, and then it creates the world. So therefore, in the etzem of elikus, there's no change. And not only that, even in the oir, there's no change. Even though we're saying in the oir there was a tzimtzum. And after the oir was suspended, even the oir that came back is not the same oir that was there before. It's only a thin line. That means that even when the oir comes back after the tzimtzum, it's also through a tzimtzum. It's not the same light, even when it returns. So the whole beginning of creation is through tzimtzum. The oir disappears. The oir is suspended. And then when the oir comes back, it's also through a tzimtzum. It's just a line. Still, the chiddush is, lo shanisi is even in the oir. Now he comes to the Tzemach Tzedek. Tzemach Tzedek writes in Derech Mitzvah Sechet, she'inyin zeich she'ein shinigam ber nizmai b'bir ha'yitzros chayim. This is explained in the Mamer from the Alter Rebbe that explains the Yitzros Chayim, the Arizal, one of the Svarim of the Arizal. Where he also speaks about Tzimtzum. Over there, the Alter Rebbe gives an explanation of what this means. Now, I just want to say what this line, what he said here. I'm going to say it very, very briefly because I know because of Tzimtzum. I know Tzimtzum is Shalaiki Pshutai, but part of Tzimtzum is that there's Mana Makam, right? It turns around the Tzimtzum on the head. This turns the Tzimtzum on its head. Why? What does the word Tzimtzum mean? One thing we're saying is that the creation happened from Oir, not Shefa Oir. That itself is a big thing. Because it means the moyer, the source, is Ani Hashem Lo Shanisi. And if Ani is everywhere and everything, so that means in the ultimate state of reality, it's the same oneness. Everything is Ein Sof. You have the whole existence. That's a product of Ur. That's a dimension. That's a radiation of Ein Sof. It's a certain way in which reality was formulated. But since the Ur never left the moyer, physically, the Ur leaves the moyer. The rays leave the sun. In the Nimshal, the Ur never left the moyer. The Ur is in the moyer. So at the very same reality where there is a world, there's also the reality of the moyer. We are Ni Hashem Lo Shanisi. That's one vart. But now there's a vart of tzimtzum. Even the Ur itself, it's not that the Ur created the world. The Ur had to go through a tzimtzum. What does it mean? If the Ur would be present, there couldn't be a world. So there had to be a tzimtzum, an empty space. Tzimtzum b'derech siluk. The Ur needs to be completely removed, as we explained in yesterday's shir and the beginning of today's shir, in order for there to be a space, an empty space, and then the world could be created. That means that the entire existence, the way we know it, is predicated on the absence of the Ur. So you see how that explains Achdus Hashem. You would think the opposite. So that means the whole world is based on absence of Ur. So there's no Achdus Hashem. No, this is the ultimate Achdus. Because if the entire world is based on the absence of the Ur, and the absence of the Ur is not Kipshutai, so that means the Ur is not really absent. So then what is the world? So the world is infinite. If you wouldn't say tzimtzum, what would it mean? So the Oid morphs into the universe, like the seed into the tree, the Ila into the Alol. So that means that the world as a limited, separate reality is in existence. It's a real existence. Mitzad Oid, there's a real existence. Since we're saying tzimtzum, what's tzimtzum? If there was any nekuda of Oid present, there couldn't be the world that we know. The only way it can happen is because of siluk, because the earth was removed. And that's why there could be the world that we know, the gvul of the world. And the emes is that the earth wasn't removed because it's Shalai K'pshutai. So the moment you touch the truth of Tzimtzum Shalai K'pshutai, what happens? You see the infinite. Everything is Ein Sof. That's the Chiddush of Tzimtzum. So Tzimtzum is not here to show distance. Tzimtzum is here to show intimacy. You get this part? Let me say it in simple English, emotionally, so it'll be a little clearer. Okay? A person is feeling a void. Yeah, you were saying how you don't feel any of this, and it's a lifelong struggle. Yeah, by the way, you're not the only one. I'm just saying. He's saying don't feel so special. You're not the only one who exists post-Tzimtzum. I and all of us do. Okay? But I'm feeling all of that, right? What's the greatest danger? The greatest danger is not that we're having darkness. The greatest danger, I said yesterday, is darkness has no edges. We don't feel there's an end to it. It's like you're drowning. You know, sometimes you get into a bad mood and it's just everything. It's everything. You know how people sometimes have difficult moments with their marriage and their children, and then they make decisions? My entire marriage is the worst thing that ever happened. My children are the worst children that exist on the planet. You know that feeling that parents often have? What is that? It's not a challenge. It's the infinity of the challenge. It's like I'm drowning. There's nothing else. When we feel darkness, it's Ein Sof. It's overwhelming. There's nothing else. That's why there's so much despair and disassociation. It's a helplessness. That's the word. Challenge is a challenge. When somebody is running, right, running a marathon or doing exercise and they have to jump something over, that's called a challenge. They trained for this. You jump over. It's hard, yeah. That's not the issue. The issue is that the questions seem endless. There's no end. It's Mayim Shein Lem Soif. You know, it's a boat. You're on a boat. You don't see the shores. You know, you're traveling and there's stuck in stuff. When we get into these bad moments of despair, it's like everything. There's no edges to it. Keitzam Lachoshech. We don't feel the edge of darkness. What's the most important thing for a person to know at that moment? For a person to moment is to know I'm offline. Imagine my phone is not getting the internet signal. And my whole business is based on internet. You have whatever, it's all based on the internet. So you call your wife, oh, I'm going bankrupt. We won't have anything to eat. No. You're just offline in this place. The Wi-Fi was out. Just drive a few blocks or wait 6 hours. You're going to come back online. You understand the difference? You're offline. That's it. You're offline. There's a big difference. You're just offline. In other words, you're not it's like my computer is dead. No, the plug fell out. I lost all my information. I wrote a book. The whole book was lost. No. You just have to plug it in. It just needs some electricity. You see the vert. You just all acknowledge that. Everything of tzimtzum, everything in the world, everything of separation is because of tzimtzum. What's that tzimtzum? It looks like we're offline. There was siluk ha'or, the or was gone. The moment the or will be here, and it's here. Everything, it's all Ein Sof. So the tzimtzum is the ultimate code word for achdas, for Einayit Milvada. Because if it was ilah v'alul, God became the universe. So there's God, and God became the universe. The seed became the apple tree. And it's real. It's ilah v'alul. Tzimtzum teaches us, that's what the Mitzvah Rebbe says, Hatirutz l'chol zeh inyan hatzimtzum. Tzimtzum teaches us that the entire universe that we're inhabiting, which is the finiteness, the separation, the abandonment, the mitzias outside of Ein Sof, it's all predicated on tzimtzum. In other words, if the Or would remain present, and that would morph into the world, so there's a real mitzias to a world together with God. It's not ani Hashem lo shanisi. But because Or had to leave in order to create the universe, and the truth is that the Or didn't leave, so what is the universe? Answer. So it's all Hashem. So it's a Lo Shanisi. In the world, it's Lo Shanisi. It's not saying that Tzimtzum is a joke. We're not saying that. We're saying that Tzimtzum is not kipshutit, not that it's a joke. Again, I keep on saying that. So you hear how it changes. If you say there was no Tzimtzum, you could never say there's real Achdus Hashem. God created, don't tell me there's no heaven and earth. There's a heaven and there's an earth. And there's me, and I have an ego, and I got to survive. But because there's a Tzimtzum, so the whole heaven and earth is based on what? On the experience of absence, which is just an experience. Because the truth is that in that absence, you have everything. So what's really heaven and earth? Oneness, Einoid Mulvadai. That's heaven and earth. You see what he does here with the Tzimtzum? The whole world learns that what's Tzimtzum? Tzimtzum is I'm out of here, distance. He says, no, Tzimtzum is what teaches us Achdus. Du verstehst? It's a hafladik of art. It's very counterintuitive. God suspended himself, so he's gone. No! So that means everything is God. The Baal Shem Tov said, God is Alts and Alts is God. Not everything is God. I don't like the word God. Everything is Ein Sof. Everything is one. There's no abandonment. There's no disassociation. There's no disconnection. That's the Gili of Mashiach. That's why Chassidus is the Gili of Mashiach. That's the Gili of Mashiach. Only because of Tzimtzum. That's what the Arizal was trying to teach. The Arizal couldn't just say God created a world. What's the big deal? God created a world. How? I don't know. He's God. I'm not God. Don't ask me. What do you need this whole mathematical formulation he removed and he comes back? Leave me alone. He created the world. Was willst du? What do you want? It's like what, give people more time to have pull them about things they know nothing about? Malafonim, leave me alone. God created the world. I don't know. When I'll be God, I'll figure out how, what, when, where, when. In the meantime, could you pay my mortgage, please? Was willst du? Don't pay my mortgage. Fine. Let me sit and learn. Let me daven. Let me do good things. Was willst du from me? That Arizal wasn't trying to give equations. The Mittel Rebbe says that Arizal was the gilui of Pnimius HaTorah, of Teres HaGeula, to heal the world. The ultimate healing of the world, Tzimtzum, is the spiritual equation to heal the world. Now that's something worth listening to. That's something worth hearing. You hear? When he hears the word equation, he has Chiyas HaMesim. That's good. It's one word, Tzimtzum. That's the spiritual equation, the Kabbalistic Hasidic equation to heal the world. That's worth listening to. And this is what Chassidus revealed in Kabbalah. The Rebbe Rashab once said, the world thinks Chassidus is an explanation on Kabbalah. The truth is, Kabbalah is an explanation on Chassidus. Here you see it. Kabbalah is equations. Kabbalah and Chassidus, lahavdil, is what mathematics is to physics. Kabbalah is to Chassidus. Another Tchiyas HaMesim he had now. Lahavdil. Why? Physics is not mathematics, but mathematics is the language through which physics is articulated. Tzimtzum is not the Vort. The Vort is Achdus Hashem. That's Chassidus. But Tzimtzum is the equation to say it. You understand? That's why people who learn Kabbalah without Chassidus, they have the equations, but the Nekuda HaPnimis of Einoid Mulvadai, that's Teres HaBaal Shem Tov. That's why Mashiach told the Baal Shem Tov, when am I coming? When your well springs will be spread. So the Rebbe said it's not a schar. It's like, you'll spread your mayonis, then I'll come. He says, that's what it means I'm coming. What does it mean? I'm coming. That means I'm here. That's what it means. It's not a separate thing. When this is nizgala in the universe, when this is embodied in your life and in our world, this is geula. There's nothing else. This is everything. This is what everybody's searching for. Everybody's searching for this. So Tzimtzum is literally the equation to heal the world. To heal the whole pain of the universe on every level. Physical, emotional, psychological, social, spiritual, financial. It was worth waiting till the end. That's what it was. The teretz for all this is Tzimtzum. So I have to acknowledge that right now I feel like the light is gone. And that's a very fair thing. But that's very different than saying the light is gone. If there was no tzimtzum, so then Achdus Hashem is not the ultimate reality. It can't be. Because God created a universe. God's energy morphed into a universe, even if it's only the Oir. But the Oir morphed into the world. That's it. Zehu. So it doesn't affect the Mayer. That's true. The Mayer is good. He's unscathed. Ani Hashem lo shanisi. But in the whole world of Oir, which is the world of experience, of course shanisi. Of course. Me with all my issues, with all my insecurities, with my fears, with all my struggles, the world with all of its craziness. And even the highest worlds with all of their identities. But there's duality. There's subtle duality. It's subtle, but it's duality. In Atzmus, not. But in Oir, of course, there is. The Chiddush of the Alter Rebbe was that in Oir is Lo Shanisi. If you say in Oir Lo Shanisi, that means even experientially you can experience infinity. You understand the difference? If it was only in the Mayer, it means the truth is everything is infinite. But in experience, you can't. Oir is experience. Oir is what I see. Oir is what I get. Oir is the way I get God, not God himself. Oir is relational. Oir is relationships. The source of relationships is Oir. Oir means relationship. Oir means I am not just I'm also affecting you and you're affecting me. You see me, I see you. I don't only mean physically. You get me, I get you. I feel your energy, you feel my energy. Oir Ein Sof means the experience of God, not God, the experience of God. Or God allowing himself to be experienced. On different levels. Oir could be infinite levels, but that's what Oir means. Oir is Gilui, the way I'm revealed, the way Ein Sof is revealed. That's why it's called Oir, not Etzem. If you would say there was no tzimtzum in Oir, there was no tzimtzum in Etzem, it means in the essence everything is Ein Sof. But in experience, of course it's not. It's a crazy world, crazy ego, crazy insecurity, crazy pain. So in order to go to Ein Od Milvado, you have to go away from experience, you have to go from Oir to Ma'ir. The Chiddush of Chassidus is not just that in Atzmus there was no tzimtzum, or in the language of Avodah, not just on a level of emunah, but even on a level of experience. If you would say in Atzmus there was no tzimtzum, so when a Jewish child says Baruch Hashem, he's talking about Atzmus, and when a Jewish woman says Geloib Dereibishter, she's talking about Atzmus, and when a Yid says thank you God, thank you Hashem, he's talking about Atzmus. So it means on a level of emunah everything is Ein Sof, but on a level of experience of Oir, no. Then is Shanisi, of course Shanisi. Oir created a world. And that means the Ein Od Milvado is relegated only to emunah, not to Chachma Bina Das. It's not embodied. The whole word that Alter Rebbe wanted to achieve was to be megala, that emunah is not just on a superconscious level of faith, or even on a level of faith that's conscious but is above, but it could be embodied in your intellect, in your emotion, in your nervous system. So for this, he went a step further. And he said, even in the Oir, where there was a tzimtzum, because I'm experiencing finiteness, over there was also no tzimtzum. Ani Hashem lo shanisi, even in the Oir. How do you explain that? Tzimtzum. Because the whole reason there could be a metzias of Olam is because of silukar. In the presence of any light, you don't have Olam, you have Ein Sof. And since tzimtzum is shaloi kipshutai, so that means even in the absence, there's the presence of Oir. So that means in every nekuda of absence, there's two dimensions. One dimension is the way it seems to us, where there's finiteness, and a deeper dimension is the reality that it's all Ein Sof. And now you can be real Dira B'Tachtoina. And that's the equation of healing the world. And the tzimtzum that we're now going to do, which means take a break, is going to be Shaloi Kipshutai. Because wherever you go, it's going to follow you. Be'ezer Hashem Yisbarach, and we'll continue Be'ezer Hashem tomorrow, 7:45 a.m. And everybody have an amazing day.
Wow.
Yes.
When you said the story about Mashiach, that your friend said in Mashiach about fun.
Oh yeah.
Can we live in a gula?
Yeah, that's what it means. We're not. You're right. We could and we should, but the fact is that there's so many blockages now in so many of our lives. It's the ikar. The Rebbe, yeah, you're right. The Rebbe,
So why do we want Mashiach so bad?
but that's what it means.
Blockages.
When we say we want Mashiach, it doesn't just mean we want someone outside. We want Mashiach is, I want me. I want my true me. We want Mashiach now doesn't just mean I want, some character to suddenly emerge and do good things. It's something about I want my own inner Mashiach to come out. The Baal Shem Tov says, the Mamer Naim writes in Parshas Pinchas that there's a nitzutz of Mashiach in every person. And when everyone reveals that nitzutz, all the nitzutzes together create the flame, and that is Mashiach. So Mashiach is the collective consciousness of everyone's nitzutz Mashiach. Exactly.
Baal Shem Tov, Chevra Kadisha lived in Mashiach.
Yeah.
So it just means that everybody's going to be able to experience that.
Right. Everybody, and also all our own parts. Everybody inside of us. All of our parts.
Making that, being dear isn't that living at Mashiach?
Yeah.
But isn't that the challenge? If you take away that challenge, it's no longer
right.
dear with Tachtonim. It's just.
You want to know how it's going to be Tachtonim after Mashiach comes? That's a good question. Chayda, the answer is because it's going to be in the properties of Tachtonim. It's not going to be undoing the world. It's in the property of Tachtonim. But you're right, it's a different challenge then.
It's not the Alter Rebbe says that.
You're right. Now we're dealing with darkness.
You're right.
You're right.
So now when Mashiach comes, we're not going to be able to create that.
Don't worry, life will be exciting. Don't worry, it'll be exciting. Nicht gedeiget. You won't get bored.
I have another formula. Lo shanisi
Lo shanisi.
means sheni, not two.
Lo sheni, lo shanisi. Excellent. It's really the same thing. The word shanisi is connected to the word sheni, shniyut, duality. Duality means change, right? Because duality right away means there's me and there's something else. And the question is, how did that happen? How did from one come two? So there was a change.
So that's what I said, not two is one.
Ani Hashem lo shanisi, you're saying is not two, but one. Yeah.
That's the point.
See, or all you said is relationship. I thought Simpson also has relationship. You said the definition of or.
Oh, so now the question is, if the whole tachlis is this oneness, so don't make a tzimtzum. Don't make a tzimtzum. So don't have the oir after tzimtzum. So don't make a world. But then there's no achdus. That's what the Maggid taught us earlier. You wanted achdus. You didn't want just infinity in its own infinite reality. That you had pre-creation. You want embodiment. You want the relationship. You want oir. But you want in the oir, there shouldn't be, the tzimtzum should be shalai k'pshuta. But if there's no tzimtzum, so there's the chatchila no me. There's no you, there's no me.
There is no desire in the way for others.
There's no desire, there's no connection, there's no relationship, there's no dvekas.
There's no or.
Ultimately, oir is the beginning of the relationship. And in order to be a relationship, you need tzimtzum. Because if not, it's einoid milvade. There's no room for oilamus. So you need the tzimtzum. So if you have tzimtzum, so now the oir is gone, because you have a world. But because of that, there can be real achdus. You understand? The oir means you want a relation. Right? But if oir in soif, if the ein soif is begilui, so there's no other. There can be another. So the tzimtzum is what allowed there to be another. So now there's a real other. There's a real other because there was a tzimtzum. When you say tzimtzum shaloi kipshutai, in the oir, what you're saying is that even as the oir is absent and there's another, the truth is it's not absent. So what's really going on is we really have the opportunity when we go to the depths of the tzimtzum to reveal that the other is completely one with you. And that's all the Rabbi used to say, I don't want Gan Eden, ich will managed wie dich allein, I want you. Now the question is, what is the formula for this? What does it mean? So there was a tzimtzum, there was no tzimtzum. So he's going to start giving a few mashalim for this so we can relate to it more. We're going to learn Be'ez Hashem tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to have a share, Mitzvah Shabbos of Fabrengen.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.